Morning, it's October 2nd, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Well, I watched the vice presidential debate last night, and if you expected some knockdown fight between the two contestants, you'd be disappointed. They were cordial toward each other, even when disagreeing, and in fact, they seemed to agree on several points, and I would suspect the Harris campaign to take Walz aside and explain to him that you cannot be agreeing with Vance on so many of those points. In terms of style, Vance won this debate on points. Just as Harris seemed more poised and better prepared when she debated Trump, Vance looked at ease and answered the questions even when Walz was trying to avoid the answers. Vance made it clear that there will be issues where he disagrees with Trump, but on the whole, they're in sync when it comes to the policies that will turn this country around. Walz, who for some reason was scribbling notes the entire debate, paired the Harris campaign talking points and then made a few gaffes, particularly when he said he got to know shooters. The CBS moderators were doing a fairly even job until they could not help themselves and had to fact-check J.D. Vance. It was on the issue of immigrants flooding the town of Springfield, Ohio. The Vances made the point that when you drop 10 to 15,000 Haitian immigrants in a town the size of Springfield, it overwhelms the town and puts a major strain on resources. What Vance said was, quote, "Look in Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across the country. You've got schools that are overwhelmed. You've got hospitals that are overwhelmed because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes." Well, end quote, that's a correct statement. The moderators had to jump in and point out that those Haitian immigrants were here in the country legally under the Immigration Parole Program. They were supposed to be here temporarily, but how many of you think they're going to return to Haiti in the future? But Vance then countered that it was a program created by the Biden-Harris administration that brought them to the United States. The moderators then turned off his mic when Vance pointed out the rules. They said they would not be fact-checking either candidate. But both candidates made some questionable, if not downright false statements, and I expected them to do so. So here's my own fact-checking. Tim Walz falsely said that Trump paid no federal income tax for 15 years. He should have watched his nose grow on that one. Democrats released a report in 2022 that said Trump paid $1.1 million in federal income taxes while the president. As a developer, there were years where he had not paid taxes simply because he lost money in those years. That's very typical in the development industry. Vance got in the act by saying that Trump reduced the cost of prescription drugs and they went up under the Biden-Harris administration. I would give them a draw in this because they fluctuated in both administrations, going up some of the time and being reduced some of the time. The point is that neither of these politicians understand how pharmaceuticals are priced and the cost to develop them. Back to Walz, where he claimed Minnesota. Did you notice he talked a lot about Minnesota, not the overall country? Well, he claimed they had the best state for health care. Now, there are a lot of studies on this subject, and Walz cherry-picked the one that he liked best, but others have ranked Minnesota as low as 34th. Walz also claimed that Trump created the largest trade deficit with China in history. This is an oversimplification, and according to industry experts, because both policies and consumer habits drive those deficits. But being accurate, the deficit did reach an all-time high in 2018 at $419 billion, but Biden in 22 was closing in at just under $400 billion. Walz kept creating new facts. He said Trump did not deliver on the border wall promise and only got 2% of it built. In reality, Trump said we needed 1,000 miles of border wall. While he was in office, 458 miles of barrier were built at the southern border. We still have large stretches of the border with no barriers at all. Now, J.D. Vance said there was no major conflict during the Trump administration. And I would give Vance a 75% correct on that statement since no new wars were started while Trump was president. But what Vance actually said was, quote, "When was the last time an American president did not have a major conflict break out? The only answer was during the 4 years Donald Trump was president," end quote. But in reality, no new wars broke out during the presidencies of Nixon, Ford, and Carter. Remember, Vietnam had already started when Nixon took office. He also failed to mention that Trump ordered airstrikes on Syria in response to them using chemical weapons, and he also had the Iranian military leader, General Soleimani, killed. But for the most part, I think Vance was correct. Vance also claimed that the Biden-Harris administration unfroze $100 billion in Iranian assets. Now he's mixing up the data to get to this point. Under Biden-Harris, they allowed Iran to access $16 billion in assets. I suspect he was referring to the action by Obama when he dropped sanctions on Iran that allowed European countries to unfreeze about $100 billion in Iranian assets. But that really wasn't under Harris. Because abortion is a major plank in the Harris campaign, Walz claimed that Donald Trump would create a federal pregnancy registry. This was mentioned in the Heritage 25 document and was denounced by Trump. The media has completely debunked this claim when it was made by the Harris campaign. Project 2025 is not Trump's plan, and he's repeatedly said he's not read it, has no intention of either reading it or implementing it. Now, then Vance claimed that Homeland Security has lost its track of over 320,000 migrant children. It's true and not true. A Homeland Security report from the Inspector General found that ICE has been unable to keep track of all unaccompanied minors released from government custody. Vance is combining two numbers from the report. More than 32,000 unaccompanied migrants failed to appear for their immigration court hearings. The report also found that more than 291,000 unaccompanied children who, as of May 24, had been served notices to appear because they didn't know where they were. Walz claimed that Trump dismissed U.S. troop injuries as headaches following an Iranian missile strike. Again, that's partially true. American troops suffered head injuries in the attack, and then President Donald Trump at a press conference in Davos, Switzerland said, quote, "I heard they had headaches and a couple of other things, and I can report it's not very serious." And that's according to the AP. He based this on a DoD Inspector General report that TBI injuries were suffered in the attack were not properly reported, so Trump had no information at that time that they were serious injuries. And as I said, both candidates stretched the truth and facts during the debate, and I expected that. Overall, I'm going to give Vance a win because he was more poised and answered even the tough questions thrown at him, while Walz seemed uncomfortable the entire debate. It's been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.